Hi, I'm Jen from Telus World of Science Edmonton, and we're here today for another Maker Monday. This is the place where every Monday we do a new design, build, test, engineering challenge using supplies and tools that you can find around the house. This week we have to design a boat or a raft that can move away from the island, so that we actually get off of the island. So you can use last week's boat if you want as a starting point, or you can start by building a brand new boat this week. Last week we were shipwrecked on an island and we were trying to find a way to escape. So we started by building a floating boat, something that would carry a load, using only the materials that were available on the island. However, after we tested our boat last week, there was a massive storm on the island, and we have a few additional materials to choose from for helping us to build our boat this week. Okay, so let's see what we have this week to work with. It looks like we have some more milk cartons or maybe some bottles you can reuse. We also have some more tinfoil, so 2 pieces of tinfoil, that's 30 centimeters by 30 centimeters. We also, again, have 4 corks, if you have some of those lying around at home. But again, remember, if you don't have any corks at home, you can also use any airtight containers like an old pill bottle or an old candy bottle. Okay. Also, you can have a sponge as well. Okay. Oh, it looks like I have a second one here, so 2 sponges. I have 5 rubber bands or elastics. We have 10 centimeters of duct tape. Okay, we also have another 50 centimeters of string or thin rope or yarn that you have at home. This week, we also have some straws. These have been cut in half already, so lots of those. We also have some cloths, leftover cloths. We had those last week as well. A plastic bag, if you have a leftover grocery plastic bag. We also had last week some branches and twigs and leaves and things that were already there on the island. You'll also want some tools like some scissors. If you want to create a design, you'll need some scrap paper and maybe some markers or pencils. And the last material I wanted to show you this week was this week we actually get a really cool adhesive. I think we knocked over some trees in that storm, so now we have a lot of sticky sap lying around on our island. So your choice, you can choose to use white glue, a glue stick, or we could also use hot glue. Now I'm going to be using hot glue today. Just make sure if you have a hot glue gun that you ask a parent for help in showing you how to use it safely, because the tip can get really hot. There's some testing materials that we're going to need as well for when it's time to test out our boat designs. So obviously we're going to need some sort of ocean to test our boats out. So we're using a kiddie pool outside today, although if you don't have a kiddie pool, you could also use a large bucket or maybe a sink. Just make sure you ask a grown-up first. You're also going to probably want a source of wind. So I've brought a fan here, but a smaller fan will work too. You could even use a hair blow dryer if you have one of those. We're also going to need something to add a little weight to our boats as well. So I've brought back our marbles from our first part of our shipwreck challenge. We can use those for weights, but again, anything small and heavy that you can put in your boat will work as well. The other thing you might want is if you have to do this indoors, maybe it's not nice outside and you have to do this indoors, I would recommend having lots of towels nearby, maybe a tarp, just to help keep things nice and clean. All right, it's time to begin. Boats move because something pushes against the boat. Newton's third law states, for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. If something pushes against an object, the object pushes back. In the case of a boat, the wind could push against the sail, the paddle could push against the water, or the propeller could push against the water. Boats also have something called a keel on the bottom. The keel helps to keep the boat from tipping over and prevents it from twisting sideways. Sailing is a bit more complicated if you don't want to move in the direction of the wind, but we're not going to get into that today. We just want our boat to move. Now we have to choose what materials we want to use for our boat this week. So, which of these materials do you think are going to make a really good boat, but also are going to help us design a propulsion system to get it to move off of the island? After thinking about it, I've decided to go with these items for my first design. So I've chosen 2 plastic bottles that have been rinsed out. I've chosen an old plastic grocery bag. I've chosen to use some of this leftover sticks and twigs and branches from our island as well. Now that we have chosen our materials, we need to make a few designs. We are going to concentrate on the way it moves instead of its ability to carry a load like we did last week. So I've drawn out a couple of different designs, and this is the design I'm going to try first. Now we get to build our first boat. All right, I'm done building our first design. So you can see I've used 2 plastic water bottles that I rinsed out. And I've put the caps back on them so that they're filled with air, and hopefully that will help our boat float on top of the water. The other thing I've added is I've put in a stick or a twig right here. This is going to be our keel. So hopefully that's going to add some stability to our boat here. And then as far as propulsion goes, I've added a sail here using our grocery bag and a twig. And I also had to add an elastic here to make it able to move. And so hopefully we can catch some wind in order to sail off of our island with this boat. Okay, now let's test our boat. So we'll put it in the water. And remember, we want to see if when we turn on the fan, it's going to travel from this side of the pool to the other side of the pool. Okay, so turn on the fan. Okay, warming up. Okay, we'll let go. I think it worked. Now that we've finished testing our first design, I wonder how we can improve it. I know, maybe we'll try another kind of propulsion. So we're going to go with this as our second design. I'm done building our second design, and so what we have here is this is the main part of our boat, and I've glued on some branches. I've added some corks to the back to add some buoyancy to make it float a little easier. And then our propulsion system, what I did was I put 2 elastics on the back. I've used a piece of wood to put between them, and then I've twisted it up in order to store a bunch of energy. And hopefully when we get this in the water and we let it go, it'll start spinning and create that movement we want to get off of the island. All right, it's time to test out our second design. Remember, our first design moved pretty well in the wind, but what happens if there's no wind? So we've decided to try out another type of propulsion. So first, we're going to take our 2 sticks, put them in between the elastics, and we're going to start spinning them and twisting them up, trying to store elastic energy. Okay, and we're just going to add a bit of weight to our boats. We're going to add some marbles. Okay. And remember, we want to see the boat move from one side of the pool to the other side of the pool. So let's start it over here. That worked really well too. It's a little slower than our first boat. Oh, it's still going. Oh, there it stopped. It ran out of energy. So, isn't that interesting? We use 2 different types of propulsion for our boats, one with wind and one without wind, and both designs worked pretty well. I'm really pleased with how our 2 designs turned out this week, especially with the improvement between our first design to our second design. I think we learned a lot about how boats move and what works and what doesn't work. So I would really love to see your cool boat designs, so you can post any pictures or videos in the comments down below. I can't wait to see what awesome designs you guys came up with. Thanks for joining us for another Maker Monday here at Tell Us World of Science Edmonton. I hope you really enjoyed the challenge this week, and I hope you can join us again for Maker Monday next week, where we're going to have another awesome design, build, test challenge. So remember, stay curious.